Hello, and welcome to the Student Experience podcast, where we will be chatting to members of the University of Suffolk community, giving them the opportunity to share their experience with us. I'm Sam, and I'm a member of the Student Experience and Engagement team, and in today's episode we are joined by history student Robert Gray and paramedic student Chris Chaldury. We discussed their time at the university so far, why they chose to study here, and their involvement in the D&D society. Robert and Chris, would you like to introduce yourselves a bit about the course that you're studying and what level you're in?
Hello, my name is Robert Patrick Gray, he, him, and I am studying as an MA in History at the University of Suffolk.
I'm Chris. I'm a third year student paramedic, just about to finish now.
Okay, so you've got quite a mix. quite
very different disciplines, but strangely a lot in common.
Yeah, I think we've realised that over the years.
We deal primarily with humans.
Yes. What first attracted you to the University of Suffolk? What made you feel that this was the place for you to study?
Well, for me at least, it was my stepmom had family around the area, and I knew I wanted to move away from home. So I think the idea of being near the countryside really appealed to me. And when I came for the interview, everyone was quite welcoming and happy, and yeah, it just made me feel the most welcome when I went for the interview. So
that's great to hear.
You can't get more rural than Suffolk, really.
No.
In my case, it's kind of similar story. I'm originally from France, you see. I'm an expat, an ex-expat. And one of the reasons I primarily came to Suffolk is because they would accept me. But a second reason is because a lot of people jokingly told me that Suffolk is very much like rural France.
Right, okay.
And that is only one motorway, kind of in the backwares of nowhere. And I wanted to feel comfortable, so I thought this would be a good place for that. And I also knew a teensy bit about Suffolk history before moving here.
Yeah, there is a lot of history in Suffolk, isn't there? So.
There's a lot of history everywhere. It's just a matter of how far you're willing to dig.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great. It's nice hearing disparate perspectives. Obviously, I'm born and bred here, so I was a bit kind of, I don't know if I'd ever describe it as rural, but I suppose it is really. So
I grew up in South London. So
yes, we definitely, in that respect. It's
I'm originally from Birmingham.
Oh, wow, okay. Oh, God, yes, I suppose we are really rural. So. Awesome, okay.
So motorway.
Yes, that all important motorway.
So in terms of your subjects, were they always the ones that you wanted to study, or was there anything else that you considered? Or
so when I was younger, I think generically I kind of was interested in medicine, and then that changed to emergency medicine as I got older.
Okay.
And it was only when I was in college that I kind of had a realisation that maybe that wasn't right for me.
Right.
And I decided to go back a year and change my A-levels to fit paramedic science better.
Oh, fantastic.
Which really helped. And it suits me. I don't regret it at all.
Oh, that's great.
It really does suit you.
Yeah. It's not something I know a huge amount about, so it'd be interesting to hear some more about it.
You're one of those people, Chris, where I can't imagine you doing any other job.
I hear that so many times, it's quite funny actually.
What do you find the most interesting? What do you like about medicine, and obviously being about to become a paramedic?
I think it's it's quite scary hearing those words. So I'm about to be a paramedic.
Oh, we believe in you.
But I think the most exciting bit of it is, I think, to be honest, is the adrenaline rush when you're going to someone and, you only get a tiny amount, as they call it, pixie dust of what's actually going on.
Wow,
and,
okay.
You have to manage a whole scene, and it is interesting. No day's the same. So
that's always a good thing, I find.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Unless you like the predictability of things,
How about yourself, Robert?
Unlike paramedic sciences or the discipline, ours is chronically boring. But that's the nature of the work. Our work is digging out the truth about human nature, about what it is that makes us tick, and why
boring at all.
why we do what we do as humans. I would compare it less to like an adrenaline rush and more a slow burn, the satisfaction of slowly chipping away at rock to reveal something precious, much like archaeology, which is not history. Very different disciplines.
Yeah.
History is very much that slow burn of digging out the truth about humanity. Why I chose history? Originally, I'm a carpenter by trade. I'm a mature student. A little bit mature. I spent a few years actually I spent a lot of my years studying carpentry in France, and I hated it.
Oh dear, okay.
No shade to any of the carpenters listening to this podcast, but carpentry was horrible in France. It was back-breaking, it was soul-destroying. The people who worked in carpentry were the laddish sort of people, which really made me uncomfortable as a human being. So moving into history was as much a career change as it was a lifestyle change for me.
That's interesting. Okay.
What's your sort of favourite part of history to study? Your particular?
Oh God, you asked a dangerous question, my dear friend. I would describe myself as a historian of ideas. My belief is that there are certain ideas that humanity has co-opted and have manipulated throughout history to suit the needs of its time. My theory or my belief is that my job is to trace how these ideas have evolved and why they have. So, for example, my personal white whale in this case is honour. So I enjoy tracing how honour has evolved in British history and seeing how that has impacted its interaction with other nations. How has honour been acted upon in the Age of Empire and the Age of Imperial Decline or imperial continuation, if you listen to some historians. That is my field. A bit more esoteric than just saying I like looking at tanks, I admit. But that's the beautiful thing about history. It's not just one subject. It's a massive, massive field.
Yeah, I mean, we get so much good feedback about the history courses, and you guys do seem to study such a huge variety of different things.
We're good at what we do.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not going to study history unless you absolutely love it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you obviously said about medicine. Did you ever consider any other courses within the uni? Has anything else piqued your interest?
To be totally honest, no. I think I've really enjoyed getting to know people who do different courses, especially through the society.
Yeah, great.
That's really opened my eyes to it. It's been amazing, and the history students. I've got quite a few friends through the wildlife course.
Oh, fantastic!
It's a lovely bunch.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's really lovely to get to know everyone. I think as soon as you do more than 1 year on the paramedic course, you learn to get an interest in people, so that's one of the things that I really enjoyed about it.
Weirdly enough, I find that's very similar with history, really, as our subject. You learn to like people. Yeah. You can't do this discipline if you don't, on some level, enjoy or are fascinated by humans.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially with, like, if you do go into being a paramedic and things, you have to be able to read people as well as the situation. Like you said, you have to be able to interact with people, like show empathy, all kinds of things, don't you? And like I say, with history, you're essentially looking at people, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say like that, definitely, and it can be very, especially during COVID when I was starting my course, if you're going to sit in the back of the ambulance for most of your shift, you need to be able to have a conversation with them. It's going to be a very long shift otherwise.
Because we're both COVID babies, aren't COVID students, really. We both started during those times.
Okay, so you preferring, obviously a silly question, probably preferring how it is now being in person rather than online and things.
I mean, when I first started the course, obviously, COVID allowed medical-based students to come to the university still.
Okay.
So, although I was online, technically, I was still living in halls.
Right, okay.
Which I think did make uni quite difficult to start with because there wasn't those opportunities to go and join a society or go to Freshers Week or go to any of those things.
The exciting parts of that being a student initially, isn't it?
And you were still away from home.
It definitely kind of forced us into our classes, really, and made us sort of all niche up. You are the paramedic students. From this point on, you will only ever meet and talk to paramedic students. And that happened in our class as well. For the first year, I didn't even know most of the other courses existed. It was a weird experience.
I think the best thing was finding out that Freshers Week goes on every year. You could just join it. It was not exclusive to first year. So I've made use of that every single year.
As you should.
It's a great opportunity for Freshers Fair just to get back into the university field place and also see what's changed a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, we know how full on a lot of courses can be. I'm sure paramedic science is one
Yeah.
of them, and history. how
Mine is not full on. I have the easiest existence in life.
So that leads on nicely. How do you find your study life balance?
Well, I think it's been interesting. It's taken a lot of learning and adapting to stuff, but I think I've figured it out now. And I think especially with anyone who does shift work, it's really prioritising yourself first, which is really hard to learn, especially when, you know, you could go to Freshers Week and you get excited and, you know, you come off a 12-hour shift and, you know, you're at university, everyone's doing all-nighters, everyone's doing that, everyone's staying up late. So, you know, you easily convince yourself to just go and socialise. And I was getting almost both of that, but I wasn't really looking after myself. So it was only when I kind of balanced that out, it made the quality time with other people better. Good. Because, you know, if you've got those 8 hours sleep, and it sounds so silly, but it takes you so long to learn that.
Yeah, especially with shift work, it completely throws everything out. I personally couldn't do it. I take my hat off to anyone who can. It's like,
my first year uni, I lived with just nurses.
Yeah,
it's one of the reasons I never signed on with a GP, actually, because I could always rely on some measure of medical care. Sorry if anyone's listening. And they were often on shift work, and you could see how harsh it was on them, how much it could really wreck them. You really do need an incredible amount of, I'm not going to say willpower, I'm going to say grit.
Yeah, definitely.
It's grit more than willpower. It's the ability to keep going even when it is bloody annoying, and being able to take your time for yourself is such important to reset yourself a bit.
I think it's really being open with honest with your group of friends as well. Like when I started going through it all, and I was like, I had a few times where I had a bad shift, and you know, you'd organised stuff because you had a day off, and you know, you balanced it all out, and then you just weren't up for it, and it was, you know, but when you have good friends and you're being honest with them, they understand. And you know, that's the nice thing about being part of the society as well. It's like it's somewhere where you can kind of, especially with D&D, go and escape.
So
it's really fun.
It's a very good point. The society is an excellent way of just relaxing, usually.
Yeah, no, I was going to say. It literally leads on to so how you guys got involved in the D&D Society. If you can tell us a bit more about it.
Okay. This is a strange story, so hold on to your seats. The society wasn't started by Chris or me.
No, it started with some lovely girls who were doing, I think, was it graphic design and fine art. They started up because their parents played it and they wanted to get to know more about it. Me and Robert both joined because we had played D&D before. I think from that point it became more of an advisory role about certain things with the society, and eventually they were in their third year, they decided, well, we volunteered more like to take it over.
It was a very soft takeover. They had a lot going on, and they made it very clear that they couldn't keep running the society, and we sort of just kept turning up.
Okay.
We wanted to see what happened, I think, and I think that kind of, we wanted to carry on running games. We still wanted to meet up with people, and I think even when a society does start to dissolve, there's still people who, you know, carry on with it outside of university. So I think it started off with that, and I think people still were coming, even though the society was not
sort of official.
It was kind of like a weird in between where no one was able to run it because everyone was quite busy, but then people were still eager to play. So it was I had a very similar experience with a society I used to run the year before, where when we were waiting so long on the official confirmation that these societies existed.
But so we just kept meeting anyway. So we were unofficially official, and we just kept meeting out the library.
It's great that you could still feel that you could do that. I mean, why shouldn't you be able to do it? It's a social group.
Yeah, at the end of the day, publicising a society is important because it gets new people in.
Of course.
And for D&D society, that's fantastic. Because more people means more fun, means more games, means new characters, new experiences, new stories. And D&D at the end of the day is an experience in shared storytelling. So new people improves the quality of the story.
Of course, that's great.
I mean, I know a tiny bit about D&D, but not loads. So for those listening that maybe don't know too much about it, could you explain sort of what it is?
So I would say that, at least from my perspective, I've played both the DM, as we call the Dungeon Master, who runs the game, and I've also been a player. I've been playing in Robert's game actually, and things like that. But it's really quite. It can take any form you like, but most of the time it's one person telling a story, and you have an ability to make any decision you like. Each character is set up usually with some kind of ability score. So say you want to do something, it's already set up whether you're going to be good at it or not. There's still an element of chance, obviously you roll the dice, but
that element of chance is actually the most beautiful thing. I was thinking about this earlier today, actually, about the nature of failing in D&D. One of the wonderful things about D&D and any tabletop roleplay game, really, I like the tabletop roleplay game as a term. D&D is a sort of brand. Is the beauty of failure. Other games, if you fail, imagine you're in a video game, if in Mario, for example, you fail, you fall, damn, I have to restart the entire level. Okay, time to do my 9 to 5, get back to where I was. D&D, if you fail, the story keeps going on. And it's actually more interesting because of the failure. And actually makes the game more interesting for other players in the game. It's not just you, it's everybody. And because you can fail, other people can step up. You can learn to rely on other people. D&D is a game about teamwork. It's about a sense of spirit. It's about shared story, a shared adventure. And that's really where failure comes in. It makes the failing enjoyable.
I think as well, it's made it so fun as well. Like, there's nothing more fun than, again, with the element of dice, but on the other side of, you've got the character who's got the least amount of intelligence on their thing. They should have a minus or whatever, and they should never be able to roll that high, and they roll really, really high. There's nothing more funny than when you've been playing for multiple games and the character, is, not understanding what's going on, really confused, and you're trapped somewhere and they go, oh, why don't we try this? And then everyone looks at them and they're quite shocked. But it's that element of, it's quite a really fun game.
It really makes you feel creative.
Yeah,
and there's so many.
It must be. Like you said, like...
It's a form of extreme improv.
Yeah.
But there are rules.
Way of describing
but there are rules to it. There's a structure to it. And I want to say a little bit about this. That's the advantage of D&D. Everybody knows what a dragon is. Everybody knows what a dragon is. You don't need to describe it, which means that there is a pool of collective knowledge around the table to create this story with. One person, one game master, cannot know all the rules, cannot know all the history of a world, cannot know every little bit, doesn't know your characters either. They're not omniscient creatures. They might like to pretend they are God, but we are not God. So that sort of communal knowledge is really important, and it makes D&D a really wonderful social game. Because everybody's like chipping in with their own bits of story, their own bits of world building. It's constantly being created and renewed.
I think that's one of my favourite things from running the society, is seeing someone turn up, and usually, actually, we were talking about this just before we came up, that usually someone will turn up on their own, which I think is contradictory to some other societies. Usually you bring friends, we bring people to the society, and you see them turn up and they're not sure how to make a character, they're really nervous, they don't know the rules, and as we say, we just jump in. It's the best way to learn, and
there is no wrong way to be a player or a GM. In fact, there's good habits. There are good habits to pick up, and you pick those up as you play. But just dive in, like you say, Chris.
Yeah, and I think people have a misconception and get quite scared of starting D&D because it is such a big world and it is so many rules. There's so many things out there. But at the end of the day, I think the point that we try and get people to is when they're turning up with a character and they're nervous sitting in a corner, next week they're making funny noises and they've got a character voice and they're, throwing their hands around, having a laugh, and there's always the rule of cool, which is if it's cool, it goes. So it's not as strict as I think people think it is.
And you would make an excellent point. It's not as strict as people think it is. At the end of the day, much like the pirate code, the rules of D&D are more guidelines than anything else.
I like that.
GMs and players create their own rules at their table. They create their own systems. They create their own approaches to each rule. Every table has their own unique little microcosm of what D&D means to them.
So how many people can play in like
a
game?
Well, this is a debate that I think me and Robert have had for a while.
4 is the best number, but when the society when we started running it, I had 9 players because I was the only person GMing at the time.
Oh, wow.
I was learning, and I eventually did start running my own games. But
That helped immensely.
Wow, I think it 9.
Yeah, it's very hard to get far in a story when you've got 9 people debating how to open a door. So
the true arch enemy of any party is not the dragon. It is not a great tentacled monster. It's not the evil god. It's a wooden door with a simple lock. Because everyone will think it's trapped. Everyone will think there's a monster behind it. Everyone will think the door is secretly sentient and is trying to unveil the secrets of the universe to them.
There's a door.
Basically, but it is really fun, and I would say probably. I would say a minimum of about 3 people. That makes good conversation. It makes a good kind of social group.
Lighthouse rules.
Yeah, I would say up to 6. That would be my.
Okay.
That's what I feel comfortable with as a DM.
Yeah.
I'm very
Too
new.
many, and it becomes hard to do anything.
Yeah.
But too few, and you don't have that wonderful organic interaction between players.
Yeah.
Which is what all GMs seek to achieve. They want their players, to not ever have to ask the GM anything. They ask each other.
Yeah.
They ask, what should we do? I think we should do this. I disagree with you. What should we do? Looks at the other person. You want that kind of byplay between players, and the GM is just there to keep the story going.
I was about to say, is that kind of the etiquette of it, is you have to have like a GM there.
Etiquette is an excellent way of putting it, actually.
Yeah, but I still, like, it's interesting what you said about each table or each group has their own set of rules, but I'm guessing you still have to have a basic
which is why D&D exists. D&D is a shared resource, a shared rule set, a shared world that everyone can be vaguely familiar with. But it doesn't have to be D&D. Listen to now as I take you through a world called There Are Other Roleplay Games.
Like say D&D is the one people mostly know.
Yeah. But there are loads of other games, loads of other systems that appeal to different things. Like there is a roleplay game called Venser, when you're Scandinavian cryptid hunters hunting down trolls and fairies in industrializing Sweden.
Ooh, right, okay.
There's Cyberpunk, where you play techno ninjas in a dystopian megacorp version of Detroit. And they all have different themes, different questions that they're trying to answer. D&D is great if you want to have that adventure, when you want to be the hero, the character, and you're trying to explore your own morality, your own personality with it. But there are other systems out there that are made for different types of story.
I think that's really like a good way of pointing out as well that we do cover those as well in the society. We have a thing called One Shot Week. So in the last week of the month, it's a complete regist of how the society works. So you no longer have, your normal campaign group that you're going to for the normal story. It's anyone can run a game and it will finish in that session, and it gives everyone an opportunity to have a go. And especially when you get comfortable with the people you're playing with, you really realise how nice it is. I've used it to try out new games. I tried to make I don't even know how to try. I tried to make a Final Destiny kind of game that was kind of a thriller / escape room kind of
wow,
vibe to it, and the mechanics behind it as a DM didn't work, but it was really good, and everyone was so positive to just be involved in the story. And I think that's the thing, there's no such failure in D&D, and I think that really makes it really welcoming and nice.
Especially when it's an interesting concept, where your game was. It had so many interesting themes going on. And as a history student who loves ideas and themes, those were fascinating. And people who are not particularly into those kinds of things still find it an interesting game. There's lots of things to enjoy in D&D. Like my current campaign, I look at concepts of isolationism and imperialism in a university, but in one shots you have that freedom to really like tell a different story, a unique little vignette for just people to enjoy and get into, and anyone can just jump in. They don't have to feel like they need to read this long list of lore.
That would be what puts me off. I'm not great at remembering rules and things.
Neither am I.
One shots, dive in, have fun, and and they're great for new players and new GMs as well. We always recommend, if you're thinking of joining the society, come on one shot week. Because it's a brilliant opportunity to just dive into a game, get a feel for the people in the society, get a feel for what kind of game you want to play, or game you want to run. We're always looking for new GMs, especially now that society is getting...
I was going to say, are you getting quite a lot of students like coming in
Well,
now?
I think that was one of the things that really shocked us when we took it over. I think this was one of the things that when we got handed the society to look after, and there was such a lovely thing for us because we do really enjoy it. We kind of knew who was coming over, and we could talk to so many different levels of players. We could talk to people who were nervous to start and had never played it before. Actually, Stranger Things was one of the ones that brought a lot of people over because they'd heard it from the TV show.
The society's name, Hellfire Suffolk, is a Stranger Things
reference. Stranger Things reference? I don't want to presume.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't choose this. I have never seen Stranger Things.
Oh, it's brilliant.
I love it personally. I love it, but
and I think it's really funny because like when they'd come over and they'd talk about it, they're like, is it actually like that? And I was like, yes, it is. So I get really excited.
It's good when you see it, like in things like Stranger Things. Obviously, that was huge when it came out, and it does kind of, even if it's not your thing, it kind of promotes like the things like D&D and
it's
the other
made
games.
Other things, there are other things beyond that as well. There are loads of now streamed games. Rises of D20, Critical Role. Have all really pushed Legend of Vox Machina.
There's a new game that came out as well. What's it called? It's an actual playable game, video game that is based purely on D&D concept.
BG3, Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate.
These are all excellent things that people go, that's D&D, that's roleplay games. I want to give that a try. And then the society is a good place to give it a try, because I like to think we're a pretty good group, really.
I think we've become really welcoming, and I think, to answer your question, we've had so many people join this year. And
I think I did a count, actually, and the highest number we've ever had at one session is 19 people.
Wow, that's brilliant for a society. That's amazing.
That's brilliant. I mean, so in terms of students that might want to join, when is it? Where is it?
So it is every Wednesday in the student union. We usually we usually try and start at 5:30.
We have what we call a preamble time where we do a bit of admin. Everyone gets around, play some ping pong, a bit of billiards. Billiards, is that?
I'm going to use my Suffolk accent.
We play a little bit of pool, just why everyone gets there. We have a Discord server and messenger group as well for people to share information. We have a big Dropbox as well that the society maintains, which has over 50 rule books on it of all kinds of systems, nearly all of the standard D&D stuff, along with my personal collection, along with another person's personal collection, and another person's personal collection. And as long as the society exists,
it's completely free to use. So it's really great for people who are starting to think of starting their own game and can access that through the society. But so it's every Wednesday, and we usually kind of go into if it's normal campaign week, people go into their normal campaigns. If there's new players, we just allow them to start and, you know, go around asking the DMs who's willing to take on a new player, usually give a brief overview of the story, and they can join. We would always say as well, if you have any trouble coming up with a character or you're not sure where to start, me and Robert usually are quite happy to come up a little bit earlier and get you set up for the week. And then one-shot week, that is absolute chaos, but it's brilliant. And it's where we usually do suggest people start, because I think there's quite a satisfaction of starting and finishing a story and getting to know everyone, and it is a really open, lovely space we've been able to make. So yeah, I would say that that's probably the best one. That's the last Wednesday of every month.
Right. Okay. How do you, I mean, obviously, when you get students coming to you, is it like a word of mouth that they come to you? Or when you do things like the Freshers' Fair, do you find that does help?
I find Freshers' Fair helps immensely.
Good.
I've spoken to a lot of people who then join.
Yeah.
I think they enjoy my enthusiasm and me talking about that and D&D and stuff, because I can talk about it till the end of time. But we do get a bit of word of mouth.
Right.
I talk to a lot of people from different. Here's the beautiful thing about D&D. There are secret D&D societies in every university.
Right.
I've always known that they exist. Usually D&D societies don't survive in a university context, because what GMs do is they find their players and then they take them home.
Right, okay.
But because our society meets up every Wednesday, we have one-shot week. There's this real encouragement for everybody to come together. And one of my favourite things about every session of D&D is at the end, because everybody from all their different games comes together and they talk about what happened in their game. Yeah. Oh God, in that last game we got attacked by a bear. God, the bear.
And you get that, you know, when you're playing a game, especially when we're in quite a cramped space now, because there's so many of us, you know, you'll hear a kapow from the other side of the room and you're like, I need to ask what that was. Well, at the end of the game, I need to know what was going on over there.
Or someone on another table will just turn around and go, Oi, Kevin, bugger you, for no reason, and we have no context.
But it's so, yeah, I think that is one of the lovely things, is that even when we finish early, people stay till the society shuts, you know. And
it's part of the community, isn't it? And like you said, the fact that you've managed to keep it so it's on campus, and everybody, and you said yourself, you took completely different courses.
Absolutely.
And you've managed to come together. So is it like that generally in the society? Have you got lots of different...
We've got so many different courses on our society. We've got art students, wildlife sciences, the core subjects. We've got so many people from so many different
historians.
Yeah.
I think we have an English literature student, screenwriting, Grace's screenwriting.
Yeah, so we've got so many people, and it's really lovely. I think the Freshers' Fair really helps, because I think people come up to you and realise you're so approachable and you're welcome. And it's quite funny, we say, does anyone volunteer for Freshers Week? And we'll have one or two people say they're definite free. And then by the end of the time, when everyone's kind of gone around and got their freebies, you just have a collection of the D&D society there.
Yeah.
Because we just...
The other members join us, and at the end of this, 6 of us all behind the table talking.
But I think those obviously feel safe and comfortable, and like you said, I didn't realise how big a society you guys were, but you've obviously got a really good thing going if so many people have joined.
One of the things I do like about it really, though, is we're not particularly cliquey. D&D has a nasty habit, and this is the dark side of role-play groups, so they can become quite sweaty, cliquey groups. But we've managed to really avoid that, I think.
And we've got 2 wellbeing officers as well, on top of the normal 3 staff. So that makes 5 people easily approachable to come to at any point. And
great.
You know, we've got such a diverse group of people, and it's been really welcoming. But yeah, it's really lovely, and there's so much to learn, but it's also not overwhelming as much people think it is.
So I mean, it's obviously this is going really well with D&D. As many as 19 members, that's great.
That is amazing.
So I guess in terms of your sort of university, is there something that maybe it is the D&D society that you're most proud of so far?
I think, I think there's 2 sides to my uni experience with me. I think, you know, from the actual university side, I would say it's the society. I think especially when I took over and I was near the end of second year, third year, and I was not really able to create a space for myself in the uni, and I think that really made me feel part of the university and made me feel like, you know, there were people who were wishing for me to talk about my day and you know, discuss things and have common interests, but I think I just struggled to find that first. So that was definitely something I'm proud of. But I think outside of that, in placement, there's been so many points where, you know, feeling like you've actually saved someone's life, which I know sounds so intense and so
but it is
silly,
part of what you're going to be doing.
And I think in third year when I'd kind of got my skills together, my first ever cardiac arrest, I was able to successfully resuscitate the person and get into hospital, and it was really that
Definitely proud of that.
and I think, you know, that was one of those things that anyone who is thinking of doing paramedic or science or anything like that, there is a moment in third year where it just clicks, and I didn't believe anyone. I was so nervous, and that happened, and I just suddenly went, oh, I can do this.
This is what I've got it. That's incredible. Wow.
3 years is very much that story. The first year you're so confident because you don't know much. Second year you lose all your confidence, and then third year you're slowly regaining your sense of self and confidence in your own ability, because it's based on actual knowledge now.
What about you, Robert?
Oh, my most proudest accomplishment in university, I think it's a mixture of what the course and the society has done for me. It has allowed me to become the person that I want to be, gregarious, knowledgeable weirdo.
All the good things.
All the good, lovely things in life. But in honesty, yes. My course has allowed me to achieve what I've always wanted, which is understand a bit better what makes people tick. And D&D, it's a beautiful hobby. And hobbies help keep us fundamentally human. They stop us from becoming obsessed with the dangers of the world or our careers or our financial situation. Hobbies help us remind us of what's really important.
Exactly. There's so much negativity at the moment, isn't there, of what you guys are experiencing and doing. Like you said, it brings you, there is still some joy to be had. There's some great things happening still in the world, isn't there?
I think that's one thing that it was a bit of a sad, happy moment, if anyone kind of understands what I'm saying.
I know what you mean, yeah.
I think when we had one of the freshers there, and we had people coming over, and they said they couldn't afford the membership, and it was like, that's fine, just still come, you know, like, although it helps towards the pot and we might not be able to add certain things to them being there, we didn't want anyone to feel like they couldn't turn up. And there's so many people who are better in financial situations who bring snacks, they bring food, we have cups of tea, and for some people that might be what they're having to build the gap between dinner, and I think that's really lovely. We've got so many people who are so willing to help, and it makes it so lovely for the society.
That's one of the things about D&D as a hobby. Unlike a lot of hobbies, it's not solitary. You can't play D&D on your own. You need, other people need to be there, and you all end up sharing. Like I say, shared storytelling, shared community. You all feel invested. You all feel responsible, and you all take care of each other, which is so different to so many other hobbies, really, which can be enjoyed on their own. You need people,
and it's nice to get to know people on your level. I think, you know, there are people who, you know, think about, you know, maybe changing their degree, or they think that maybe they can't finish it, or I've had it where I've had a really horrible shift and I still wanted to go, and it's nice to people not know me from my course or anything like that. They know me for, you know, someone they can come and talk to and play pool with, which is really lovely, and I think it's good to kind of separate that sometimes.
It's like you said, I love the fact that you guys sound like you've become a real safe haven for students on campus as well. And I mean, like I say, 19 people for a society is crazy. You know, some people
we're so proud of it.
Still trying to get societies up.
You say safe haven, but D&D is great for that. I've read lots of papers and discussed this with a lot of other GMs. D&D is a great therapy tool for a lot of people. I've had people deal with their own issues around sexuality and gender in my games, because it's a wonderful
you can be anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like you say, you can be anybody. Wow, that's great.
So, I mean, talked about how moments that you're really proud of. On sort of the opposite end, were there some things that was the most challenging so far from university? I know you said you've had some shifts that have been quite difficult.
Yeah, I've had some quite tough experiences. I think, again, in third year, which I guess puts a bit of a damper on it, but I had quite a horrible patient. They didn't know what they were doing, and it was, you know, but I have had, you know, as a risk with the job, have been abused on the job, and, you know, that required our local manager coming, police coming, and still under kind of police investigation. And I think that was something that really made me realise you're not indestructible. And I think that's I was on shift with 2 other female paramedics at the time, and being an all-female crew really was quite terrifying. We supported each other and we were there for each other, and you know, it's worked out all okay, and no one was like badly hurt, but it was just honestly terrifying. And you know, I remember it was just a stomach drop moment where the police came and had looked and realised that the person had weapons on them as well, and we didn't know that at the time, and that was very, very terrifying for us. You know,
you never know, do you?
You never know, and you're not. I think as well, you're going into someone's space. You're not, you know, it's not like a hospital where someone will come into yours and, you know, they can be changed into a gown from a patient in bed. You're going into any kind of house, and that can be the lovely mansion down the street, or that can be, you know, someone who's in a really bad place. And
it's a very different dynamic.
Yeah, and I think, you know, you learn to, you know, be accepted in that place, and most people are quite welcoming to it, but there are things out of your control. But at the same time, it was a really hard moment. But it was the first time that I had to rely on my friends like that. Yeah. And I'd come home, and funny enough, it was actually people from the D&D Society who were over at that time. It was meant, like I said, we were meant to be hanging out afterwards. Yeah. So, and I just came home and I was in my uniform, just burst into tears. And, you know, they were all there and they all listened to it. And I think that really solidified those friendships. And although it is really hard, there are moments where you can rely on the society. Like, I did have my course lead message out to me. I did have, you know, a lot of people there for me, which really helped. So that's probably been my toughest experience as a student in the society, but in the society, in the university.
We're all people in the society.
It sounds like you've got the right kind of support, like you say, from the D&D Society, but also within the course as well, which is it's important. Obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you've got someone in your course who knows what you're going through, they're experienced it too. But it's always good to get an outside perspective from someone else, like I said, on another course who might not have.
It helps understand what is actually normal, and what is not right.
There are some people who, you know, again, I've got really close mates in my course, and there's someone who will understand truly what that feels like. I think that's something you need to understand. You need to have someone go, all your feeling is normal. Yes, but at the same time, it's a bit of it sounds a bit dramatic, but you need someone to kind of say, no, that's not normal as well. You need to come home and be like, the average person doesn't experience that. And I think that was something that really kind of allowed me to be like, I don't have to put on this brave face. I don't need to be a paramedic all the time at home. And
you're still a person, you're not a robot. You're going to feel things, and you're really entitled to those feelings. So,
absolutely.
Here.
So, I mean, it sounds great that you've been really supported by your peers and that. How have you found the support by the university generally in terms of academic and other?
I think it's had its ups and downs. I think that, you know, the student union is a massive support, and I think that even with the society, they've really helped, you know, answer our questions, manage, you know, how we want to do events, and they've always tried to make things work for us, which is really lovely. And you know, even financial stuff, they've been really supportive, and things like that.
Yes, he was very proactive in their approach. They want events to take place. They want societies to thrive, which is not the norm for some student unions. Before coming to this university, I knew a lot of people who had been in university for the last 6 years in various courses. And our student union is pretty darn good in comparison to others.
That's good. It's like you said, it's getting that society promoted, and it's good that we found ourselves working with the SU, like they are really proactive. They do really want to get the best experiences for you guys, the same as like we do as well. So absolutely. It is really, really great that that they're helping. The financial thing, unfortunately, is always going to rear its ugly head, isn't it? Because for all the will in the world, you do need money for certain things, don't you?
But weirdly enough, D&D society is rather unusual compared to other societies, because we really don't need much. Because, well, there's lots of people who just have PDFs of the rule books and stuff like that. At the end of the day, that's all you need. Most people have spare dice, and that's a wonderful act of community. People sharing dice.
I'll bring mine.
I haven't brought my dice. Oh, let me pull out. Which sets do you want? I've got 20 different sets. Aren't they beautiful?
It sounds really great for uni. I think it's the best we've heard about. I mean, we're hoping to get some more societies on here, so it'd be great to hear different experiences of different societies.
Craft Society are a good bunch.
We will reach out to
them.
You
like the Pole Society as well.
Pole Society and the LGBT Society are so great.
We are working on that at the moment. Just it's when you guys obviously are free, because you're obviously very busy people. So so knowing what you know now, is there anything you guys would say to yourself on your first day of university?
Oh my goodness.
Oh God. It's a tricky question to ask. What do you say to someone who didn't know anything at the start? Be comfortable with your own ignorance.
Oh, I like that.
That's a really good way of wording it. I think my one would be, it's all you're gonna fit in. Don't worry. Like, I think you will find your people eventually, and I think there's a real pressure when you start uni, in that everyone tells you it's going to be the best year of your life, and
you were talking about this.
You get so excited that I think sometimes you come at uni with so much high hopes and expectations, and they do take a while to form those friendships, and it does happen eventually, but I think it's really, it's quite hard when you get yourself so hyped up for it, and then you suddenly do realise you're living somewhere completely different with no one you know.
I understand completely what you mean, but in a strange way, it's kind of the opposite for me, because everything before university was rubbish. And university has honestly been the nicest, one of the most wonderful times of my life. But that's good because I can actually understand what people are saying here. Because like I say, I grew up in France. Very different perspective.
I was going to say, imagine the education system is very different.
Oh God, yeah.
The thing is, like you said, it's great to hear that you guys have had a positive experience. Yeah. Also, you have had challenges. You've obviously dealt with them as well, and you've kind of known where to go to have to deal with them. Really.
Yeah, we've been supported by the university, by each other, and pretty good experience, all things considered, really.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, similar to what you just said, I love the comment about ignorance. I think that's another thing. Nobody goes into something 100% knowing everything about it. Well, you wouldn't go into it.
It's often, in the history field, it's often more dangerous to have preconceptions of your own knowledge. Most of our greatest flaws in our discipline, in history, stem from people believing they understand something and then finding that they're completely wrong, but not being able to come to terms with their own ignorance. In many ways, that's what the first year of studying my course was teaching. You know nothing.
You know nothing.
Well done. I think how did my teacher Harvey describe it? Welcome to BA History. Our job in this year is to make you forget everything you were taught before.
I like it.
So we can then teach you how to do it properly.
Oh, that's great. That's a good way, because like you said, everybody, if you've been to a school, a college, everything like that, and then university is supposed to be a different thing. It's better in that you're choosing what you're going to do, because hopefully it comes to your future path. I'm guessing your future job role will be.
I mean, hopefully I should be starting it in a couple of weeks, actually, which is really insane. It's come around so quickly. I think that was the other thing that I found was very different in my course, is that so many students I got to know who finished a degree and they're like, I'm gonna go and do this, I'll build my way up to this job, I've applied to a few, and it's like paramedic, it's like, no, apply for your jobs now. They're set up for them a few weeks after you qualify, and you're like, oh, okay. And it's very, but you do know what you're doing.
Mhm.
At least that's what I keep telling myself. But
It's very, I imagine that's a real comfort, actually, knowing where you're going, and having that sort of clear structure. And you know your skills. You are a competent individual thanks to these 3 years and your placement.
Absolutely, yeah, it's exciting stuff.
Very exciting. Robert, what are your future goals?
Professional cake thrower.
Oh, I love it. Brilliant.
No, I would love to get into academic history.
Fantastic.
I would love to be able to write my own journals and start writing my own book. Like I say, I'm still fascinated by honour, but I would love to write about hierarchy and intelligence and how we use intelligence to classify types of people or even entire broad nations by how we perceive their intellectual capacity, which is wrong. Say it now, wrong, but we still do it. But I would also like to get into public history. In fact, in a month's time, the MA course is doing a conference that we're running out to hold.
Oh, wow.
We're running a conference on migration history, and we're all working on projects, and we're going to be speaking up at that.
That's
I would love to be able to do more of that.
The hold is such a great thing to have the university.
It's a brilliant resource. It has its issues, but every cross-institution cooperation has issues, but it is a fantastic resource that we use immensely in our course. It's also a nice place to get coffee.
It is.
Very useful for when it's raining and you want to get from one to the waterfront.
Yeah, we do that
You just walk through it.
Just go through the hole and smell the coffee in there. It's lovely.
It's dry, it's warm.
Oh, bless you. What advice would you give to new students or students considering joining the university? Obviously, you both have come from outside the local area, so
I think I think it's very easy to say this probably as a president of society, but joining societies, it doesn't have to be D&D, though it should be. But
come on.
I think
other societies are available, of course. To quote the BBC.
But I think that would be my biggest advice. I think throw yourself in the deep end and get to know people, get to know what's going on, and because I think that makes everything you're going through feel normal. I think when you have someone who's, social media is so different, and I think it's such a big topic, but on brief, I think sometimes that's what it can feel like sitting in a classroom. You might not always know everyone in your course, and I think everyone wants to be the best at the course. So sometimes it kind of feels like going through social media when you're getting to know people.
Yeah, people are just throwing out one-liners to try and make as much of an impact on their teacher and on their course as possible.
And sometimes it can just feel like, you get in your own head sometimes, and I think it's nice to go and mix with other courses, other people, and have something to go and do once a week that takes you away from your own. Absolutely. Well, I think that's probably my biggest advice is join as many societies, give everything a go. And
throwing yourself in is a brilliant piece of advice. I in many ways I agree completely. You should grab every opportunity in a university as possible. If there's a free conference, go to it. If there's a society that's free or anything, go to it. If there's a meetup with the student union for Pancake Day, go to it. If there's a movie night, there was Mamma Mia my first year. Go to it. Go to these events. You get out of university what you put in.
Brilliant.
But another advice I would give, and this maybe is kind of unique to me, but I think it's a good advice to anyone. Don't get married to your subject. Talk to other students. Talk about their courses. Learn what they do. Learn how their disciplines work. Not only can it give you some amazing insights in how to improve your own practices and your own discipline, but it's just wonderful. And it also talk about your subject, because it makes you appreciate how much you secretly know. It helps you get the imposter syndrome out of the way early.
That's definitely a massive thing as a student, isn't it? Well, even as an academic or as a staff member, imposter syndrome.
But that's where societies come in, like you said, Chris, because you talk to other students and you realise how much you know, how much they know, and it's a wonderful thing.
Absolutely. I think that was the thing, is like when I'd been on placement and I got myself trapped into, on placement in paramedic science, you don't really see other students.
No.
You're comparing yourself constantly to your mentor, and I think I would come into the society after a shift and I'd say, I've done this today, but I did that wrong and I did this. And they're so, sorry, can you go back 10 steps? What did you do? And I had to explain it again. And I realised, I do know what I'm talking about. I'm just learning still.
Yeah, exactly.
In a course, you compare constantly to the best member, and you're not everyone is the best person in their class. But by actually stepping out of your class a little bit, stepping into other groups, talking to other students, you appreciate what you know.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. You two should be on the uni promotion thing, promotional materials. So.
Thank you.
No problems.
So we've got the final question now.
Oh, God.
It's hard now.
Unfortunately.
I'm out of coffee, unfortunately.
So we call this last section the answer one, ask one section. So
oh, God.
You'll ask.
If it has a name, that's important.
I mean, I came up with it originally. So what we'll do is you'll ask a question for a future guest, and you're going to answer a question from a previous guest.
Oh, I really like that. That's really lovely.
That's some very interesting answers. Some of them are weirdly linked by accident.
Yeah.
So,
It creates a sort of chain of answers and thought.
Lure more of the listeners in,
It's good because obviously we asked the questions throughout, but this is obviously something we don't.
Oh, we can force the next people to understand really difficult questions.
So this is quite an interesting question. If there was something, and maybe you could do one each. If there was something you could discover for the betterment of the planet, what would it be?
Oh my goodness!
What a question to finish on.
Who was on last? Can I ask? Sorry.
He was Lewis's history student.
I know him.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry. Of course, David asked that.
It's a bit of a nibble scratcher. I'm not going to lie.
As a humanities student, there are some very fundamental questions that we still do not know about humanity. There are some descriptions or definitions that we have not come to terms with. Like I say, intelligence is a brilliant example of something that we don't actually have a good definition for. And in our time of AI intelligence being such a massive aspect of our modern fears, I would think being able to answer that question in a satisfactory manner for our disciplines, historians, would be a really useful thing to have, so we can then answer even more complicated questions around sentience, consciousness, and maybe even the soul.
That's amazing.
Good answer.
Oh my God, that's
answer.
incredible.
I'm a humanities
You've got to follow this up now. Sorry.
So I'm going to say what Robert said.
Teamwork.
Teamwork.
Whatever they said, but with ice cream.
I think, to be honest, I think my friends in the Wildlife Society have really impacted me. I think, anything to learn of how to better conservation and protecting the planet. I think that would be definitely something I'd be interested in. I can't word it as lovely or poetically as Robert, but
I mean, you're going back to kind of what you said about meeting with people from other courses. It does frame your thinking a totally different way, and also links nicely to what's going on in the university. Obviously, the sustainability team are doing some great drop-in sessions around climate change and things like that. So you know, there's opportunities to learn from each other, isn't there?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's one of the brilliant things about my subject is that we need even more now so than ever to listen to other disciplines. Cross-discipline is such an important aspect of history. We literally could not exist without it. Not anymore, at least. There's only so many biographies.
Yeah, that was good.
No, that's great. I think, that was real. Oh, I didn't even know how I was thinking, would I answer that?
It's a complicated question, but there are simple answers and complicated answers.
But you get to set the next question.
Yeah.
Who's on next?
I think I have an answer.
What's that?
I would ask the question of what societies would you create?
Oh, that's a good one.
I like that one.
Yeah, I like that.
What societies, what outside of university events and organisations would you create to help students or make life more enjoyable for people?
Yeah, that's a great question. Right, we'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think
The voting is unanimous.
That's a great way to finish. I think because I think it was a really good podcast. I certainly really enjoyed it.
Thank you, everybody.
People talk about such passion and enthusiasm. It's great.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to this.
It's great.
Our TED Talk.
So, until next time, it's goodbye from Robert.
Farewells.
It's goodbye from Chris.
See you later.
It's goodbye from Laura.
Bye-bye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Thank you for listening to the Student Experience podcast. If you would like to be a future guest, email studentexperiencesteam@uos.ac.uk or follow the links to our podcast application form through our Brightspace page. You can also reach out to us through our Instagram page, UOS_student experience.